Today I want to show you how to build a full AI app from scratch using Base44 in under an hour. And Base44 is a new AI app building tool just like Lovable or Bolt, and it's just been acquired by Wix for $80 million. So I want to put it through its paces and see what it's good at and what it's bad at and whether it's something you should be using to build your AI apps. If you don't know me, my name is Chris, and for the last 15 years I've been designing apps and advising startups on product and design, and I believe the next wave of incredible businesses is going to be built using these AI tools. So with that said, let's jump straight into Base44 and see what it can do.
Build great products. Build great products.
So let's get started building our app and see how quickly we can do this. Now this is Base44. Base44 recently got acquired by Wix for $80 million, and that was just after 6 months from launching, which is pretty crazy in the startup world. Base44 is basically an AI app builder similar to Lovable or Bolt or any of these other tools that you've seen out there. The main difference with Base44 is that most of the functionality is integrated, it's already built in, it's kind of straight out of the box, and so you get everything like your database, your backend functionality, your authentication, and it's all built into the platform, which makes it really, really easy, especially if you're building apps for internal uses or for your own business. And I think that's really where this platform shines. If you're building a consumer app here, you still have to integrate payment providers, so you would still have to integrate a Polar or a Stripe if you wanted to collect payments for this. And actually, because the backend functionality is built in, you don't get a ton of visibility of what's going on behind the scenes. But if you're building for an internal use case, if you're building a dashboard, if you're building something to help keep you on top of like your subscriptions or your customers, I think Base44 is a really, really good tool to use. It's similar in the lines of other tools like Replit, where you kind of get everything out of the box and you don't really have to worry too much about connecting all of these other tools like Supabase or GitHub or any of that stuff if you don't want to. You can connect to GitHub and actually deploy your app that way, but if you want to, you can just deploy to a custom domain straight from your app in Base44. And so that's what I want to build today, and I want to see how quickly we can build this. What I'm going to build is I'm going to build a tool that basically takes an app idea and turns it into a 30-day roadmap that you can follow day by day to actually go through and build your own AI app using a tool like Base44 or Lovable or Bolt or any of these AI app building tools. And so let's get started building this. And so where I like to start with building my apps is I like to start with a little quick exercise first, just to map out the user journey. And so what I've done here on Whimsical, and Whimsical is a tool that you can use for free. You can use other whiteboard tools like Excalidraw, FigJam I like to use a lot, but I just want to map out the user journey here. And this is going to be really, really simple for this app. And so the app is going to be called 30-Day Startup. And basically we're going to help people build an app that can turn into a startup and actually get real customers just in 30 days and create a roadmap for this. So for my 30-day startup idea, my user journey map here, it really helps to give you a clear idea of what the functionality you're building is and how the user is going to actually use this tool. And even this like simple map here might look a little bit intimidating and confusing, but I'll go through it very, very quickly and very simply. So the first thing is like the first page is a sign up or login. The reason this is the first page and it's not a landing page is because this is an app that I'm using for my own community. I actually don't need a landing page to sell that app to people. What I'm just going to do is give people access straight away into a sign up or login page through the community that I'm building, and then they can go in and put their app idea in to get their roadmap generated. What we'll do next, and I'm going to remove this here, this note, and also this one as well because that's not relevant. So from sign up and login, you're going to go into your dashboard and it's going to have an input field to put in your app idea. The user will then type their app idea into that text input field, and then that's going to generate a roadmap, which will be like and there'll be a loading page there, and that's going to have like loading these different states. So it'll be like creating day 1, outlining day 2, that sort of thing. Because the AI takes a little bit of time to kind of generate these things, I want to give the users like a sense of progress here, or like a sense of how long this is going to take. Then once they've gone through the loading screen, they're going to go onto a roadmap page, which is going to have the 30-day roadmap broken down where you can follow along through each day and kind of complete it as you go and see exactly what you need to do as your next steps and all that sort of stuff. And then we're going to go into this feedback loop, and I always like to have some sort of a feedback loop in the apps that I'm building where the user does one task and then they're prompted to do another task off the back of that, because that just incentivizes usage over time and will also help for retention for people using that app. And if you're building a consumer-facing app where you're actually getting paying customers, this is really important retention mechanism for keeping people using your app over a longer period of time. And it also helps people build a habit to actually continue using your app as well. And so what we've got here is a pretty natural feedback loop in that you complete your kind of day and then you go to the next day and you start the next task and then you complete a task. And so we're kind of going around in that loop, and we can build other feedback mechanisms in here as well as we go. And then the other things I just want to make sure that we're including is a user profile and a logout as well. And so what I'll do is I like to use this map to actually inform my first prompt. So this gives me a really good idea of the functionality that I want to be asking base44 to create when we create our first prompt and put that in there. So let's go over to the first prompt and have a look at that now. And this is my first prompt. It looks like a massive wall of text, but it is really important to be detailed with this first prompt in what you want. And there are two key approaches that I usually take when I'm building an app like this in a platform like base44. Either I want to outline the key functionality of the app and try and get it to build as close to that key functionality that I'm aiming for in one prompt, which is the approach that we're going to take here, and with a little bit of sort of design direction and using like a screenshot to inform the design for the UI as well. And then the second approach I like to do, which is more for like complex products which are going to have more functionality, is I would go to a website, like I'll go to my Build Great Products website, and then I would copy that website URL and go over to ChatGPT. This is ChatGPT using the O3 model, and I've actually done this for stackai.com. So if you were building something and you were working, if you worked at Stack AI and you wanted to build like a style guide for Stack AI to then start building and prototyping in these AI building tools, what you would do is just say from this website, create a detailed style guide for every single component structured in CSS, and that has output me a CSS file here that is pretty close. It's never going to be exact because usually ChatGPT can't actually directly access the CSS files from these websites, and so it's approximating what it thinks based on what it can see on the website from the HTML and also from other sources that it's managed to find online, like brand style guides and that sort of thing. And so it's created here a basic style guide that I could then copy and paste back into base44. And if I was taking this approach to just build the UI first, I would just do one basic page. I would just start with one page, get the UI exactly how I wanted it to, and then actually kind of add the functionality from there. So let's go back to my prompt here and actually just talk through the structure of this prompt very quickly that I'm going to put into base44. So basically we kind of break this prompt when we're doing the approach of like building the key functionality first. I'm going to break this prompt down into exactly what we want, because we want to be really specific with the AI tool that we're using about what we want to build, and we're going to go from our user journey that we've mapped out here to actually detail all of the functionality and the flows in this app, because this is fairly straightforward. It's not too in-depth here, but you can see it's a lot more than just putting in just a basic prompt to like create me a CRM dashboard, which it will build for you, but it's going to build a load of other functionality and stuff that you don't actually want. And so being clear about what you actually want to build from the start is really, really important with these. And so the structure of this prompt is really the first sentence is just an overview of the app that I'm creating, the context, what I'm creating it to do, and what customers I'm building it for. The next section here is the pages and the structure that I want in this app. So this should have a login and a sign up flow, a dashboard page with a large text field. It allows them to enter their idea, and then pages for each app idea would contain the roadmap for that idea. The app should also have a user profile page as well. And then the next section, I go into detail about the key user journey for this primary functionality. So this is basically saying that when they enter their app idea in the text field, they're going to submit it, go to a loading screen. It's then going to take them to a roadmap page for that app idea. It's going to have each of the days in a vertical kind of list and show a progress bar down the left and allow them to check off those days as they kind of work through their roadmap for their app idea. And then at the bottom here, I have like a basic design direction because I'm testing functionality here. I'm not really trying to get the design exactly right up front. And then we're going to separate the design prompt into a separate prompt that we're going to do next after we've put this in. So we'll do like, let's get the functionality built. give a quick test of the functionality, put in a UI prompt so we can get the app looking as close to the design that we want to go for. And this is just very basic design direction. So it says use DM Sans for this in this weight for headings, in regular from Google Fonts for typography. Do not use any gradients. I don't like using gradients because gradients just feels like a super AI generic website a lot of the time, and so I'm just going to tell it to not use any gradients and create a clean minimal UI feeling similar to the attached screenshot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to attach a screenshot there to kind of use as a visual reference for Base 44 when it's building this app. Cards should be white with a 1 pixel light grey border and subtle shadows, so if there's anything really specific that you want, like I want that kind of card style to be built directly in here, you can specify that here. And I always add this line of like add premium feeling animations and transitions for UI elements when they load on page scroll and on hover, because I want to create a feeling of a premium like user experience here. I don't want to just have like generic static elements. It needs to feel like engaging and interactive. And so let's copy this prompt and put it over into Base 44. Quick break in the episode to talk about my community for people who are building apps with AI and want to actually launch their app and get real customers. It's called the AI App Builders Academy. So if you're building an AI app with Bolt or Lovable or Cursor or any of these AI tools and you actually want to make a profit and launch your app, then this is the community for you. Inside you'll get access to a community of other builders as well as my 30-day app course helping you go from idea to app to a profitable launch in just 30 days. You'll also get access to weekly calls with live workshops and training, as well as all of my startup frameworks and resources and 24/7 support from the community to help you answer any questions or problems you're having with building and launching your AI app. So if you're building an app with AI and you actually want to make a profit and launch your app, then head over to school.com/AI apps to find out more. I'll see you there. And let's attach the image here that we're using as our style reference. So let's add that screenshot in there as well, and then let's send this off to Base 44 to start building our app. And once this actually starts loading the preview, I'm going to show you some of the features where Base 44 really leans into this idea of an all-in-one app builder. You can see here it's kind of summarized the prompt that I've added in here. So it's going to do a clean dashboard, roadmap generation, user profile management, authentication flow, animated loading, minimal clean aesthetic, using DM Sans for the typography. So it's just kind of, it's confirming back to us that it's picked up all the stuff that we've put in the prompt here, and this is what it's going to build. And as per like a lot of the other tools here, you also have a discuss mode that you can toggle on or off to actually chat back and forth with Base 44 to figure out like how to do certain things or maybe how to fix certain bugs as you're going through. So let's see what Base 44 can create for us here. Okay, so you can see here that Base 44 has created this app for me. So create idea launch, and it's gone through and it's created all these pages and components. It did have a couple of errors because I asked it to create sign up and login pages, and actually it just creates those out of the box. And so it's just realized that it shouldn't just create additional pages here, and it should just edit the login and sign up page that it's already got. One thing that I'm not happy with here is that it actually didn't do the layout the specific layout that I asked for on this page. So you do have to do submit your app idea and then put in your app idea here and then generate roadmap, and it's got all of these other elements that are kind of drawing away from like there submitting your app idea. So what I want to do here is I just want to change this page first before we actually change anything else, and it's got like dashboard link at the top here in the navigation, which I'm going to get rid of. So let's go through and do some of these tweaks to this page first. So I just said here change the dashboard page to just a single text input field in the center of the page with a list of generated roadmaps underneath, with a list of any generated roadmaps underneath. Let's remove the good morning section, which is this bit at the top here, the success metrics section, and position the pro tips underneath the text input field. So we're going to try and get this page laid out the way that I want to for this app. This is one thing just to bear in mind when you're building apps with AI, is that a lot of these tools, they really love to help, and so they want to build as much stuff for you as possible. They're going to take your idea and they're going to do all of these other things with it. And so if you want to do something really, really specific, it's good to be both very succinct, and also sometimes it's useful to add in the phrase do only this to your prompts. So if this doesn't work, we're going to try maybe breaking it down into smaller steps. And that's another tip here as well, is if you're building apps with AI and you're trying to make changes, sometimes these big kind of broad changes do work, but other times it's actually better to just be really, really specific and just give it kind of one task to complete. Now, as these tools move towards more of like agent style workflows, they're going to get better and better at doing multiple changes and kind of planning out what they want to do. And so this is actually much more close to what I wanted. And the way that I would approach kind of prompting AI to make changes is to start with a big change, and then if the big change isn't working, go into those smaller changes. Because if you can get a big change to be done successfully using the AI tool, then that's great. That will save you a bunch of time. And sometimes you can get really lucky with AI in that it's just able to kind of like one shot these requests like really, really well. It's done this one here pretty well. And so you can kind of, and then only to kind of make smaller changes if those kind of big changes aren't working, or if you're kind of getting stuck in a loop going round and round. And so now we've got more what I was looking for. I'm also going to do some UI improvements here as well. But before we do that, let's jump into some of the features in Base 44 and why it works as this kind of all-in-one platform. So you've got, very similar to you have with other tools, you've got your discuss mode, as we mentioned, and you've got visual edit. So you can kind of click on any of these elements and then either edit some of the stuff in this editor in the chat here, or you can just use that as a reference for the chat to actually make changes on. You can also come down here to the settings and you can change the AI model that you're using. So I'm just actually going to use the Claude Sonnet 4 because that's the model that I like to use for doing code changes. And so you can kind of switch between Claude Sonnet 4 and Gemini 2.5 Pro here. You also have AI controls. So this is really interesting where you can like give custom instructions to your to Base 44 in terms of how it should behave. So this would be like a rules file if you're familiar with using Cursor, but this just gives it kind of clear instructions as to how it should build things. And so what you can do is if you have a detailed style guide, you can kind of put the style guide in here and say always use this style guide, and it will kind of always use that. Or if you just want to say like just make really simple changes, like that can be quite a good way to kind of prompt it. And so I'm just going to add in here like only do what the user asks and don't make any other changes. And so one other thing that you can do here as well is you can freeze specific files. So if you think, well, the dashboard page, that's finished. Okay, we'll come in here, we'll freeze that file, and that will stop the AI from actually going and changing all of these other pages that you want. So you have a bit more specific control over what you're working on. You can also go to workspace at the top here, and this is going to give you an overview of all of the stuff for your app. So you basically got your users, the people that have signed up to use your app. That's by default has your own account in there, but when people actually sign up to use this, that will show in this list. You have your data, so this is kind of your basic database, and you can add records in here as well. It will create tables for you, so you'll be able to see all the data in the app through here. You've got analytics, so this is just very basic analytics, and you can pick a date range and see like how people are using it. You might want to use something else like a post hog or a mix panel if you want more detailed analytics and kind of integrate that and just chat with Base 44 to integrate that. You can buy custom domains. You've got security here as well. So one thing that I like about Base 44 is that it has this built-in security check, and that's something that not a lot of other platforms do, where you would have to maybe prompt another tool to say like go through the code and check for security issues and then fix them, which is a step that I always like to do before deploying any app. You can just do this kind of built into Base 44, come over to security, click start security check, and you can view all the code here as well for your project. Now, one thing to note is that this isn't all of the code files for this project. I don't think, anyway. Like, it's got most of the stuff in here, which doesn't give you like direct control over the code. Now, this is primarily a platform targeted at people who don't want to do any code, so this makes sense for this sort of platform. But if you are looking to actually interact and like make changes in the code more in a more detailed way, then you might want to use another platform. But for now, we don't need that at all, so that's absolutely fine. You've got logs here, and you've got API as well, so you can. It says API integration made easy, but I'm actually not sure how to like integrate an API here other than just chatting here. And what this is like the Python, basically the Python script file for the APIs that it's using. Chances are we probably don't need to use that a lot. And you can also go into this button up here where you'll be able to export the project to GitHub or export the project as a zip if you are deploying via GitHub. And if you click on this button up here as well, I don't know what's going on with this UI, but you basically get an activity monitor of all of the kind of back-end stuff that is happening. So if you do like if you're using one of the features and that has like an AI feature in here, you'll be able to see it loading in this activity monitor. So that just gives you an idea of like if something doesn't seem like it's not working, or you've done something and something's not happening, you can kind of go over to the activity monitor and have a look to see where that might be breaking or what's going on, and then reference that in the chat to try and fix it. And you've got all of your settings here as well, so logo and app settings here, where you can kind of disable and enable certain features. And so that's basically your all-in-one kind of platform that you get with Base44. Now let's load this app, and I'm going to make a few other changes here as well just to improve this page. So first I'm going to change the background from grey to like a kind of a subtle like dotted texture background. So we just said change the background of all pages to a subtle white dotted notepaper style background with light grey dots. And then one thing to note here as well, so like often when I'm working with other tools, I like to queue up a series of changes in the chat window here. But one thing you can't do with Base44 is I can't type in this chat window whilst it's doing it. So you're kind of forced to wait a little bit here. Well, when I would kind of like, I'd like to type in my next change here so that when this is finished, I can just immediately submit the next change. So this kind of like does slow down the workflow a little bit. But if you're working with this and you're just kind of going off and doing another task in between when it's kind of building your app, then that's absolutely fine. For some reason with that change, it's also saying implementing loading spinner animation, which I'm not sure, maybe that's a loading spinner animation for the background to load. I don't know why it needs to add that in. Again, like for some of these smaller changes, we should probably say do only this in the prompt, because AI and some of these tools like to do more or less than others. And I think Base44, because it's targeted at more users who are looking to kind of build apps without coding and just kind of get to something that's useful pretty quickly, it's actually just like more inclined to add extra stuff than some of the other platforms would be, which can be good if you're looking for that. But for some, I think for me, I would prefer like more specific control over stuff and less like going off and doing other changes that I'm not aware of. But let's see what this comes back with. Okay, so that's added a subtle dot to the background. I did ask for it to be on white, but it's still on this grey color. So light grey dots on a white background, which is not correct. So let's say just like change the background of all pages to white. Do not remove the note paper style dotted background. Do only this. So let's send that off to try and get that right. Okay, that's still not changed the background color to white, so we're just going to leave this for now and then I'll change that later. You can see like also here it's built in the profile, and then let's go back to the dashboard and actually put in an app idea here to test this functionality, just to test the functionality that's built. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get it to actually create a roadmap based on my 30-day framework specifically here. So let's test this functionality now and just see what it's built from that initial prompt. So I'm going to use this app idea of a mobile app that creates digital memory books from photos and voice notes uploaded by parents for their kids. So let's generate my roadmap. Okay, we have quite a nice like loading screen here. That's great. So it's doing like day 3, day 4. That's really cool. I don't like the way that loader is going. And also that should go to the full 30 days. So we're going to make a note of that change here. So for the roadmap, loading screen, show it, show the loading progress for all 30 days. And it did like a little roadmap complete there thing as well, which was great. So Memoria, digital memory keeper. Problem, audience, value proposition. So I like this. I like this initial summary at the top, so that's great. So we're going to keep that actually. Problem, audience, and value proposition. Day 1 of 30, 0% complete. I like the progress bar that it's got there. And then it's got all the days down here. And so what we've got is day 1, Conduct thorough user research to understand current market landscape. Identify 5 to 10 competitors. And you can check these off as you go. And so that's really good. And then you've got define user personas, conduct surveys, develop MVP architecture, UI design mockups, set up development environment, build user authentication system, develop photo upload functionality. So this is already like pretty good. Like you could genuinely use this to actually build. What I'm going to do here is I have like a very specific roadmap, because what I like about this one here is it's got like today's tasks and you can check them off as you go. And then you can say like mark day 1 as complete, and that will go on to the next day, and then you've got it completed there. I'm actually like, the background is like nicer on here as well. And so the colors are working all right here. It's a little bit generic, so we might update that. Okay, so let's just send this change off that we have written in here when we got to the loading screen of the roadmap loading screen, show the loading progress for all 30 days, not just the first 6, and loop this if it takes longer to load. So let's get that roadmap loading screen working better. When the user clicks on a day here, they should jump to, it should take them, and I want to make this sticky, this section here on the left sticky, the position. Okay, so that's made that change on the loading screen. We've got this app idea saved here, which is what we want, and it shows the progress through that, which is great. So it's added in a bunch of stuff here that is useful, and that's why I say like sometimes when you prompt AI and it adds a bunch of stuff, it's actually really useful because it gets you thinking about how you want your app to work. So I'm going to say like, I'm going to paste in, let's just paste in this 30-day startup roadmap that I have into here, and I'm going to say like change the content for the 30-day roadmap to match the following structure, but keep today's tasks on each day. So let's do that, and let's paste in the structure here. So it's just pasted this huge list in here. So there we go. Let's send that off, see what it comes back with. It's a gigantic wall of text. You could format this in Markdown, might be better. So we'll try that if this doesn't work. And what I'm going to do is just going to paste that into ChatGPT. And I'm going to say like, reformat this as a Markdown file with headings and bullet points. It's kind of removed all the formatting when I'm pasting this in from the Google Doc, where it does have bullet points here. There we go. Let's copy that and see if we paste it in, if that's going to be in Markdown. So base 44 has loaded. So I've updated the roadmap generation to follow the new 30-day structure you specified, covering everything from initial idea validation through MVP development, deployment, and customer acquisition, while maintaining the today's task section in the thing. So let's put in, I just want to see if this has gone into Markdown, which it has. So it's reformatted those days from ChatGPT here is reformatted as Markdown, so we can use this. We'll just copy that over to the clipboard. Actually, let's do this. Let's create a new big idea to see if this new 30-day roadmap is actually working. So you can see it's working through all of the days here. That was the change that we asked on the loading screen from before, creating your 30-day roadmap. And then what I want to do here as well is I'm actually going to get it to update the app icon and the name, so that this actually looks a bit more like the app that I want to create here. I've put the icon in there that I want to use. So here we go. We've got research and planning. We've got all of these are in this phase, and then we've got development, and then testing, and then launch. So I do want to do those sections slightly differently. So in this 30-day roadmap, it's not broken down into the sections. So let's put the sections in there. So what it's done here is it's not actually followed the format that I wanted for the 30-day roadmap, so that it hasn't added like list 3 signals indicating why the idea will work, or list 3 signals why the idea might not work. It hasn't done those, it hasn't added those in. So I just want to add in a quick prompt here to change the colors, because I've added the app icon and I don't like the blue that it's using here. So I'm just going to change it to primarily using this dark blue from the app icon. It looks like black, but it is kind of like a really dark blue. And then with the exception of status colors like green, red, orange, and yellow. So I still want to keep those for the roadmaps. So let's see what that does. So let's send that off. So let's put in, and we can always revert here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to try doing like a really broad change here. I'm going to try saying just to follow this roadmap structure exactly. Okay, let's copy that into base 44, developing task display with progress indicators. I've asked it to just update the entire UI to use this color as the primary color, and it's developing a task display with progress indicators, which scares me because I didn't ask for it to do that. And so I also forgot to say do only this on that prompt, so that might be a little bit of an issue here, but let's see what it does, because it's been working for quite a while on this task. Actually, whilst we're doing that, I wonder if we can do any visual edits on any of these sections here. So let's just do, I want to like increase the font size for some of these things. Not sure what's happening here. Let's just get it to where we want and click save. We're going to do the top and the bottom margin as, can we type in here? Okay, you can't type in here, which is interesting. So let's save that and see if it does that. So you can do this whilst it's doing these other things. Something's not working right in here. So there are some bugs with this. So I'm going to say like update the content for the 30-day roadmap to match this structure exactly. Keep the today's tasks section for each day. And then let's paste in this markdown file that we have, which is a little bit more structured as to like what each day should be, basically. So whilst that's doing that change, let's just test some of the other functionality on the app. So if we go into profile settings, I can change my name in here. We save changes, those are saved, so that's working. So as you're building this, you do want to go through and change and test the functionality as you're working. So an error came up whilst it was making this change, but it's fixing the syntax error in the loading page. I'm not sure why it's changing the loading page. It might be changing the loading page because the content of each of the 30 days has changed, and so it's pulling that content to use as the loading states. If we log out here as well, then you can see the logout screen. This screen hasn't changed its style, and based on what I've created in base 44 so far, this screen kind of always stays the same. So I don't know how much you can change with the style of the UI for the login screen, because these fonts are actually different as well compared to our app. This is not DM Sans, this is probably Enter or something. So this icon here will be pulling from the workspace, from the logo here. So let's just change this to the right icon. So we've uploaded the icon successfully there. Let's go back to the preview. That should change in, let's log out of here. So that hasn't changed on the loading screen. It hasn't changed our app icon, so that's not pulling from there. So let's see, it's fixed the syntax error and it's updated the roadmap to the following exact 30-day structure with proper phase organization, plan, build, and launch, and all the specific content, next steps, and actionable tasks for each day. Let's see if it's updated the previous ideas here. It hasn't. That's fine. It probably won't have done that. So what we'll need to do is we'll need to put in a new idea here to just test this generation. So you can see it's going through each of these 30 days, showing it's kind of loading this roadmap, which is great, and it's updated our app icon here as well. Okay, so it's loaded the roadmap now, so we can see going through here that on these days it still hasn't changed it to the structure that I've asked for. So basically, like, lists 3 signals indicating why the idea will work, and 3 signals, it should like do that. The AI should like, I want the AI to do these things on each of the days. Just to kind of like highlight what's happening here, I actually built a version of this before, and I went through, I submitted this structure for this version of the app that I created, and it actually, so that's the broken version because that broke halfway through. You can see that it's actually presenting the refined ideas here. And in the next step, it's giving 3 success signals and 3 potential failure signals. It's given a research prompt here. So I'm going to try actually just saying that, let's try putting it in again. So you can actually get it to do this. And it's given me a prompt to like create a customer research report. It wasn't great, but it did do that. Recommended whiteboarding tools. It's actually created this information for the user here. And so let's go back to the previous version of this that we're building, which is called Idea Launch, but the app icon hasn't loaded there. For some reason, the logo hasn't changed. Okay, so what I've done here is I've just copy and pasted the content from the Google Doc and over to a notes file, and then I let it basically kind of create bullet points on there so that when I copy and paste it back in here, it's okay. And this will actually be and this will just be the exact content that I have in my 30-day plan. So let's put that in, and I've said use AI to generate the content for each day based on the instruction, and then AI generated output back to the user on each day card in the 30-day plan. So let's see how this works, if this works any better. It's also like not updated these categories for the plan either. So one thing that I might do here is I might like start from scratch and then include this plan when I'm starting from scratch for the initial prompt, so that it just creates that structure for me, rather than trying to do it like amend something that it's already created. One of the things that AI does like to do sometimes is that it will kind of like stick to its original creation. So don't be scared to kind of like restart what you're building and then create it from scratch again if you need to. So let's copy in the idea here, and then let's generate a new roadmap and see if this has updated the content. So AI generated content for all 30 days following the exact structure you provided, with each day containing detailed explanations, specific instructions, and actionable tasks tailored to the user's app idea. Let's see if it actually follows it this time. Okay, so this still hasn't updated based on the actual structure for my 30-day plan. So I think I probably need to try a different approach here. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave this for now, because I think this is still super valuable, what we've got here. And then I'm going to update that structure later so that this can be ready for launching inside the community. But for now, we've got a pretty decent setup here where we've got our live app up and running in less than an hour. And I want to make a few other changes just before I finish up here and give you my final thoughts on Base 44 and whether you should use it, whether it's a tool that's actually worth building your app in or not, and just make a couple more changes here let's just try and do some of the visual changes here just to improve the way that this looks. And so let's do the size of the font here bigger. For some reason the visual inline editing doesn't seem to be working. I'm not sure why that is. We can select the size from here, but it doesn't change either. So let's leave that. Let's just refresh that whilst we're here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say to increase the size of the text. What's your next big idea? To double on the dashboard page, do only this. This is going to reload with that text size bigger. That's great. And one thing I want to do here is just to move the position of this dashboard link. Position the dashboard link in the navigation next to the profile icon on the right hand side, because that's sitting kind of like awkwardly in the middle at the moment. Do only this. So there we go, we've positioned that just next to the navigation there. And I think like one tip here as well is like AI is often very, very good at doing these very simple, quick changes, but some of this more complex stuff can take like figuring out a different approach to actually get it to work. Part of what I think isn't quite working in here, in this large structure for this 30-day roadmap, is that this is quite a complex setup in that we do have like very custom content going into all of these 30 days throughout the entire plan, and so this is something that's very difficult to do for the AI app builder to do in just one go. To give you some context, I did try doing this on V0 to actually build this business plan in one prompt, and this wasn't just prompting the AI to create this. It's not created an app for me, it's just created the components. But V0 has actually followed the structure of my roadmap a little bit better. And so there is like a case here for like working between different tools to actually figure this stuff out. And maybe I would bring some of this stuff from V0 over to base 44 by copying some of the code and putting that into the chat window here. And don't be afraid to try and use these different tools to get it to work, or even to try rebuilding it from scratch, because I do actually think maybe I would get a different output if I rebuilt this from scratch and actually gave it the full prompt to generate the right roadmap here when I was building it in that first prompt. So before we finish up here, I will actually just show you the final app idea that I built in base 44, just to go through things, because I do think it's pretty impressive what this has managed to build here, even in just less than an hour. I know there's been bugs and some stuff that we've come up against, but you really can't expect AI to be able to cover all of this stuff, especially with the level of complexity of the prompts that I was putting in just one go. And sometimes you have to prompt back and forth to actually get these things. And I think with even just like half an hour to an hour's more work, I could get these ideas working so that the 30-day roadmap that the base 44 has created for me here actually does match my 30-day roadmap very, very closely. I think that would be relatively straightforward to do. It would just need prompting these individual changes individually instead of trying to do it all in one go. So let's open up a preview here just to see what this looks like before we finish up. So you can see in this preview we've got the login page for our app. Because this is an internal app that's going to be used for my community, it's okay to have the login page as the landing page here. I'll just basically continue to iterate this and then share this with the community, and people can sign up and log in through here. So let's continue with Google and log into this app, and you can see that you've got your big text prompt field at the top here. It's 30-day startup, describe your app concept, and let our AI create a personalized 30-day roadmap. So let's put another idea in here. So let's say I want to create an AI agent that helps people write their first novel and guides them through story, structure, and more. Let's put this idea in here. And so you can see, as we've kind of tested before, it's building this roadmap. It gives you this loading screen. So that sense of progress is like, whilst the AI is creating this 30-day roadmap for us, and it actually helps the user to stay on this screen as well by having something engaging and interesting to do to look at whilst it's loading. It even added this little bit of text here saying, still processing, this is a complex roadmap if it does take a little bit longer. So here we go. I want to create an AI agent that helps people write their first novel and guides them through story structure and more. We've got the problem, the audience outlined, the value proposition, so leverages AI to offer personalized interactive guidance for aspiring authors, helping them build their story from the ground up, navigate the complexities of novel writing efficiently. And we've got the entire 30-day roadmap mapped out here. It's not exactly as per my structure, but that's fine for building something in under an hour. I think we can easily prompt these changes. And as I go through and complete each of these days, I'll basically be able to track my progress, mark a day as complete, so day one is complete, and then move on to the next step here through the roadmap. And so if you're building like an internal app or something just for your team to use, you can see how easy this is just to pull something together very, very quickly that you can share the link to, get feedback from your team, build a tool that's actually going to help you improve your processes, or build something just for personal use that you can use in your browser to help you increase your productivity or do anything else here super easily with base 44. And if you do want to get started with base 44 and try using it today, you can use the code Chris10 to get 10 free credits on your account when you sign up. And so now that's all done, let's get into my final thoughts on Base 44 and whether or not this is something that I would actually use. So that was Base 44. I managed to build a full AI app from scratch. There were some teething issues at certain points, and I do think Base 44 is better at certain things than it is at others. And those use cases really would be for internal use and for your own personal tools. I think Base 44 really excels at this because it's got everything built in. It's got that database built in, it's got authentication built in using Google sign-in, it's got your AI functionality built in out of the box, and it does give you one single place to kind of view all of that stuff that's happening. Now, for consumer apps, I don't think it's necessarily the best option because you don't get the exact control you need over certain elements of the functionality and the database and the authentication and some of the other tools that you can kind of integrate here, and it can kind of go around in a loop a little bit more than some of the other tools and not interpret instructions as well as some other tools that I've used. I would say if you are building a consumer app, there are better options out there, but you could still definitely legitimately build a consumer app in Base 44. I would definitely recommend building two separate projects and having one as your website where you deploy it to your main domain and one as your app where you deploy that to your subdomain, and then using GitHub and Netlify or Vercel to actually deploy those to those different domains rather than building it all in one go. Base 44 does seem to get a little bit confused when you try and get it to do a landing page that goes into a login that then logs into the app on the same project. And I'm going to be putting together more full build videos using different tools here, so subscribe to the channel if you want to see those and learn more about how you can build AI apps using all of these different AI tools. As usual, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. And you can also join my community over at school.com/AI apps if you want to take your app idea and actually start making a profit with it. Thank you for watching and see you next time.
Build great product. Build great product.